So this is my desktop PC. Right now it's a Ryzen 5 1600, and I was hoping to upgrade it to one of the 5000 series, but unfortunately I've only got a B350 mainboard. So I saw on some forums that some people had flashed their B350s to B450s, and I thought, what a great idea. I have an ASUS B350i, and practically identical to the B450i, except for one small detail that I, like a noob, overlooked. That is, my mainboard has a 128 meg BIOS, and the B450i has a 256 meg BIOS. So when I tried to flash the B450i to the B350, well, this is what happened. It doesn't boot, it just it stays like this. If you see the inside, there's a red LED up on the mainboard up there. Everything else is blinking red, so it's kind of hard to see. But that means basically it's bricked. So, what am I going to do? Fortunately, my CH341A EEPROM writer just came in the mail, and I'm going to try to unbrick my mainboard. Hopefully this works out. So, I've disconnected all the power, and I've taken out my CPU. I don't know if that really matters or not, but it just seems like it'd be as little connected to the board as possible. Over here, I've also disconnected my CMOS battery, and I went ahead and shorted the pins. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but right there is the BIOS chip for the ASUS B350i. There's a little round notch on one side of it, and that tells us which side is pin 1. We're going to need that when we connect our clip to it. Over here, I've got an SOIC 8 clip that's connected to a little riser board there with some pins on it, and that is going to connect to this, and this is going to connect to my laptop. That little bit there was getting in the way of putting the clip on the chip, so I went ahead and sanded down one side of my clip here so that it'll fit on, and that seems to have done the trick. On this EEPROM programmer, got this indicator on the bottom that tells you the two types of EEPROM chips that it can work with, the 25XX and 24XX. I remember when I was trying to flash my BIOS before with flash ROM that it told me that it was a 25, so I'm going to plug my controller into this side, which corresponds to that chip. If you see really closely on here, there's a notch on the right hand side with a little white spot. I'm assuming that that means pin 1. And pin 1 is going to go towards the red marked part of my cables. I'll get this connected up here. Okay, so now it's got a nice solid connection, and I've plugged it into my EEPROM writer. In order to use the CH341A EEPROM writer, I had to install flash ROM. So I'm just going to go ahead and run LSUSB and make sure that my computer is detecting the EEPROM reader properly. Sure enough, there it is. Okay, that's working fine. Next thing I'm going to do is see if my flash ROM reader is detecting the EEPROM chip that I have on my main board. To do that, all you have to do is flash ROM -P, put in the designator of your EEPROM reader, in this case the CH341A_SPI. As you can see, it comes up just fine. I've got my W25Q128.W, which, if you remember, the B450i is a 256.W. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is CD into my downloads directory, where I did the only wise thing in this whole process. I used flash ROM to make a complete backup of my BIOS, and that will hopefully turn out to be a lifesaver. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to try to write my BIOS. Again, we do sudo flash ROM -P, -W for write, and then the file name where my backup was, and press enter. Okay, well, it says it's reading the old flash chip contents. Well, it takes quite some time for this to work. I think I can see the LED there on the EEPROM writer kind of flashing, so I assume it's still working. So we'll see what happens in a minute. For your sake, I cut out a lot of this process. I think overall it took probably about 10 minutes to read the flash chip, and then erase it and rewrite it, and then finally to verify it. Okay, so it looks like we're finally coming to the end of this process. There we go. Flash verified. Okay, now it is time for the moment of truth. Does my PC live again? You're finding this out right along with me. I'm going to flip this on the back. what is going to happen. Oh, I see the LEDs in the back doing something. And the fan's kicking back down. Oh yes. Ah, that is such a relief. Well, it seems like I won't be able to flash the BIOS of this main board to get it to work at the 5000 series, but at least I don't have a brick anymore, and I can still upgrade to 3000, so that'll be a very significant performance increase. Thank you for watching this video. Hope it's helpful for you, especially to learn not to do the things that I have done.